Warning, incoming game over. Warning, incoming game over.
Okay, let's try this again. That was embarrassingly long to be muted. I apologize, folks. I didn't
I thought it maybe
realize
got
that.
fixed.
Oh my gosh, so silly. Okay, so we have a great show for you tonight, and it's going to be a fun one, I promise. But we are going to have a bit of a wake-up call in the third period because I've been taking the temperature of this fan base, and I think that we are acting like we haven't been there before, and it's a little bit embarrassing. I think people are overreacting to losses on a game-to-game basis, and we need to see the forest for the trees a little bit. So we're going to talk in detail about where this franchise is and why you shouldn't be freaking out right now, why you shouldn't be stressed out about the Montreal Canadiens. And I don't like to tell people how they should enjoy sports, but I'm going to tell you today how you should enjoy sports. Welcome to Game Over Montreal. I'm Andrew Berkshire. I'm here with Jordan Hachey. Aside from the wake-up call first period, we're going to talk about how this game went the way it went, because it's kind of confusing when you break down the numbers versus what we saw. And then we're going to talk about special teams with a special mention to one Joe Veleno, who keeps going Veleno mode on us, and it's getting enjoyable now as opposed to the early season when it was not. Jordan, how you feeling?
Yeah, I mean, not too bad. It's obviously a letdown when you're losing to the Buffalo Sabres, but we also have to remember you're not going to win every game. And overall, it was a decent game, not a great game, but a decent game. And it'll give us the team more motivation heading into the weekend, heading into kind of the rest of this stretch here before the Olympic break. And no one will get to hear the epic wisdom you had for us at the start of this. But yeah, it was, I would say maybe the term is lukewarm is how I'm feeling. You can't get too worked up over a single game in an 82 game schedule at the end of the day. And when you do outchance the other team overall in the game, even though it didn't quite go your way, you can't be too mad.
Yeah, and the fact is, process over results for sure. One of the unfortunate things about sports, especially sports the way we do them in North America, is that there are so many games that like you shouldn't really let a single game change your mood or your opinions that much. But also, that is kind of the nature of sports, to react to what just happened in front of you. But when there's 82 games, there's going to be ups and downs, and you have to understand that going in. But today was a bit of a down, I would say, even though maybe it shouldn't be seen that way long term. We will get to that shortly as we start the first period. But first, we're going to hear from our sponsor for the first period, Inchu Bijou, a lovely goth jewelry store locally owned here in Montreal by a bunch of awesome young artisans. At the famous chateau at 4000 Rue Saint-Ambroise lies one of Montreal's coolest secrets, a glamorous Gothic jewelry store owned and run by women. Inchu Bijou isn't just a business. They've built a community that supports bold creativity and expression. When I was first introduced to founder Astrid Episegomian's shop, I was floored by the detail, vision, and scale of what she's built from her own mind. I don't think anyone would call me goth, but I know an innovator when I see one. Along with building their own business, Inchubiju also hosts markets for vendors in their space called Marché Maleficarum, boosting their whole community. If you don't live in Montreal, explore inchubiju.com, where you'll find over 800 designs that range from affordable to bespoke. Check out Inchubiju right now, a Game Over partner from the beginning. Welcome back to Game Over Montreal. We're not muted this time. I'm just going through the chat here as the commercial was on and seeing so many people trying to warn me that I was muted. Vaguely Stat says, Andrew having an epic rant that nobody can hear. I repeated most of it, I promise. Trinka, mute. Like, yeah. Sorry, folks. Sometimes even the veterans mess up, and you see that in the NHL, and you see it here as well. But, okay, so tonight against the Buffalo Sabres, I think the biggest thing in this game came down to just execution. The Buffalo Sabres, every time they got a chance, seemed to put a perfect shot on net. And we can go over and say, like, Jacob Fowler should have had this one or that one. And I think there was defensive miscues on the Canadian side as well. But I'm not on the side of the folks who are saying, like, overall, it was a poor defensive effort from Montreal. Because, frankly, at 5-on-5, the Buffalo Sabres got their shit rocked tonight. Like, it was 64% in the Canadiens' favor in expected goals. High danger chances were 10-5 in favor of the Canadiens. The Canadiens owned the expected goals in this game, the first, second, and third period. So there was there was really no point in which the Buffalo Sabres were the better team in this game. The only thing they did really effectively was kind of shut the Canadiens down in the third period after taking the lead. So you can go onto Natural Stat Trick on the game page and just look at the shot attempts, and it's hilarious because it's all in favor of Buffalo, but the shot quality is all in favor of Montreal, even though the score would have you think the other was true. But the Canadiens just didn't execute well on their shots. Like, the chances that they got didn't materialize. And I think Lane Hutson specifically is a good example of what went wrong here tonight, because I thought he played overall a pretty decent game, but I've never seen him have so many mishandled pucks. It was just a weird one. Oh, shit. I swear to God, everything's going wrong tonight. For the Habs and us. I don't know what the hell this is. I don't know why this is happening. I'm going to fix it, but fuck. Pisses me off so much.
Dude.
All right, you're back, Jordan.
Thanks, Outrage. Shout out Outrage in the chat. But
Oh my God.
you know, at the end, yeah, Piano Matt thought I was just staring. Yeah, I have no
Just
idea
staring
what.
off into the distance.
But I think there's a few ways to look at it. You can get frustrated about what was going on with Hudson today, but you can also just take a step back and say, this guy's a sophomore in the NHL, and this is like the first time this season that you're really frustrated at what's going on, and it's kind of just pucks rolling on him. Like,
Yep.
if 1 in 48 games, pucks are rolling on you, like, whatever. Like,
You'll take that.
it was really annoying because they were in really good really good chances. Like, he's in on a 2-on-1 and the puck rolls on him right as he's shooting. Or Kapanen has an open net and takes too long with the puck, but then the puck goes right to him and then it rolls on him again. Or at the blue line, the puck rolls on him. And yeah, it's definitely a bit frustrating for sure. But at the end of the day, it's just, once in a while, you're going to have to fight pucks. And a few players on this team today, I mean, if you don't win a game, definitely some stuff went wrong, and they were fighting pucks a little bit today. I thought Gouli was also fighting the puck in his own zone, especially today. But, you look forward after this game, and you're not too worried about it as long as it doesn't, like, repeat itself in the future frequently.
Yeah, that's the main thing, right? Is as long as you're putting the consistency forward, you're not worried too much about a game like this. But it was a weird one. I mean, even the goal, I think it was the game winner. where who was it? Carrier who knocked it back and it went to Hudson and it just bounced off of his stick
Yeah,
and
Danault
went
kicked
straight
it
out.
to him. Danault kicked it to
Oh,
him
Dunno.
right as Hudson decided to pinch into the play at the perfect time. If it was half a second earlier, then Hudson would have easily been able to get that puck. And yeah, just
It's just that those little tiny minutia plays of just not being 100% locked in, and it just went directly to the Sabres. And there were so many plays like that tonight where it was just like just a tiny shred of a miss. And it's not like they were playing bad or dumb hockey. It was just they weren't perfectly connected, and the Sabres were. And even though the Sabres didn't necessarily play good hockey, because they were so connected tonight, they were able to, every time they got an opportunity, they had a great opportunity. And one thing that I do think the Canadiens were a little bit guilty of tonight is just letting the Sabres skate too much with the puck. The Sabres are a big team and a fast team, and they like to take the puck down the outside and then cut in. And I thought the Canadiens were a little bit too hesitant to get in their way. And it led to a lot of like, they would hesitate just as they were about to have to turn and pivot, and then the Sabres would just blow by them and they'd cut in, and it caused a lot of chaos off the rush. And even in their own zone where the Canadiens were just having trouble holding them to the outside, and it didn't really generate a ton of chances for the Sabres, at least at 5-on-5, but it made them hard to deal with and made them look dangerous.
yeah, I thought on the Alex Tuck goal, I think the one that tied the game, they just gave Tage Thompson too much space in the middle. It was, I think, like they went in 3-on-4, and somehow it turned into a 3-on-2, like just like that. And I think that's also like, part of the connectedness that we saw today, where just like that's literally one breakdown and it turns into a 3-on-2 and a disgusting one timer, by the way, from Alex Tuck.
Yeah.
Just high. This is in the high slot at the outside of the circle, and he's moving fast, and he just absolutely rips it. But at that point, we gave Thompson too much space in the middle, and when they're going three wide, if you give the guy carrying the puck in the middle too much space, it's going to open the side. For one of the wingers, unless there's like pristine, perfect, like reading the minds of each other on the like your defensemen are doing that. If they are, then maybe you can do something, but it just kind of created that opportunity, and that was like a big uh play in this game that showed kind of the difference between the two teams tonight.
Yeah. And unfortunately, in a game where you kind of needed a big performance from Jacob Fowler to make a bit of a difference there, we just got an okay performance, which it wasn't
Mhm.
bad. I don't think he was at fault for the loss, but it was a game where like he needed to make a couple more big stops for the Canadians to have a chance in this one, and he just unfortunately wasn't able to do that today.
Yeah, like if we got a Monty Washington,
Yeah,
I think we win this game.
I agree.
But if we got a Fowler Washington, we would have got stomped. So like,
Yeah,
so it's a bit of give and take here. And MUFC Montreal MUFC in the chat says we fold against teams playing old school physical hockey. That's something you need to address against the Caps. Something in the playoffs you maybe need to think about. Uh, you know, Maybe
I don't
I
agree.
wouldn't call Buffalo an old school physical team. They have a lot of
No,
big
me either.
guys, but I wouldn't say they're a rough and tumble team. Like you were talking about, they love using speed on the rush. I wouldn't call that much an old school team, but uh in terms of having to beef up, I think you can make mistakes if you over prioritize that. And I think you need to give like especially a young team, you got to give them more of a runway to get used to that hockey, because there's not every game is a game where you're playing with that extreme intensity that you need to walk the line very carefully, and that's just something especially young teams do need to get more used to.
100%. And like, listen, I understand when a team that has the reputation of being small, like the Canadians, because they have players like Cole Caulfield and Lane Hudson, that like against physical teams, when you lose, there's this idea of uh, they lost because they're the smaller team, or whatever. But have they not dominated the Florida Panthers multiple times this season? Did we not see them just beat the Carolina Hurricanes, which are about as old school and physical, shot happy, like shoot from everywhere, beat you down kind of team as possible? They've beaten the Boston Bruins recently. I guess twice against the Florida Panthers recently.
We destroyed
Who else did
Florida
they beat?
last year too. Weren't
Yeah,
we 4-0 against them
exactly.
last year?
Like, it's not like they've been getting beaten consistently by physical teams. They beat Toronto, which is, not a flashy, fancy team anymore. They are a slow, beat them down team now under Craig Berube. They're not a team that's lost a bunch due to physicality, I don't think. I think there's a lot of things going on this season that we haven't talked about in detail, at least not like all together. And I'm in the process of building that to put it out in an article, because I don't think it's as accessible in video form. Because when we're talking on video, we don't really rely on graphics that you can refer back to, right? And when you're doing a lot of data, like data doesn't come across very well in video form, I find. Like if you have a nice infographic, sure, it can look nice. But when you're trying to dig in and weave a story, I think it requires a lot more than what you can do on a live broadcast. But my point is, there's a lot of interlaced stories with this Montreal Canadiens team. This should give you a lot of hope going forward. And one of those is probably some movement on special teams, which is in our second segment here. But it was kind of a flip from the last game, where special teams were also a positive and a negative. But we're going to talk about that on the other side here after we hear from Le Saint Motel. While you're browsing into Bijou's goth shop, head next door and discover Montreal's most unique selfie studio. Whether you're looking to take some banger pics of your Halloween costume or cosplay, or you want to make some memories with friends, Le Saint Motel has you covered. Experience their bombastic decors that are always changing, hop in the ball pit, and take advantage of their extensive and flexible on-site lighting. Head to lesaintmotel.com to book your time in the studio, book private time where you and your friends will be the only ones allowed in, or book the space for an event. The dedicated, caring staff will make sure that you have a good time. I do have one warning for you before you book. If you have kids, they won't want to leave. Whether you're at Le Saint Motel or in Bijou, tell them Game Over sent you. Welcome back to Game Over Montreal. Please smash like if you're enjoying the stream, and please hit the subscribe button and ring that subscriber bell or notification bell thing, because everything has to be a multi-step process now. You can't just say, I like this. You have to say, I like it, and I subscribe to it, and I actually really subscribe to it where I want to hear from you, because otherwise it won't, and we're stuck depending on this system. So hey, tell us that you like us if you like us. It really does help. I'm Andrew Berkshire. I'm here with Jordan Hachey. This is Game Over Montreal, and we're talking about the special teams for the Montreal Canadiens after they lost to the Buffalo Sabres. But before we dig in, there were a couple more comments on the Sabres about old school hockey. Montreal MUFC says the Sabres play your typical Lindy Ruff hockey, and David Williams says, I agree, Lindy Ruff hockey. He doesn't suddenly go stupid. I mean, no, he's not stupid. Although I will say, Lindy Ruff hasn't been a great hockey coach for a very long time. Everywhere he's gone, he has moderate levels of success, but he doesn't really improve teams, and he hasn't really improved the Sabres either. The Sabres this year, they may be winning games right now, but they're not good. I don't know what to tell you. They're not a good team. This is a team that only controls 46% of the expected goals when the score is close. They are scoring right now, but we've seen this Sabres team before score well and then it disappear on them, and the bottom come out of this carriage. This is just who they are. If I were to describe the Sabres style, it would not be old school hockey. It would be reckless abandon. They play with no forethought. They just think, what's the best scoring chance we can set up right now? And they don't have any idea of defensive structure on the other end. It's just that the Canadiens did a very poor job interrupting those setups tonight, which made the counterattack that would have destroyed them non-existent. So with the Sabres, you just have to be ready for them. That's it. You just have to get in lanes and you will destroy them. They are not a well-organized team at all. Jordan, thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, it's taken them a 15-2-0 streak to get to the wild card.
Yeah,
So I mean, they're on the heater of all heaters right now for sure.
they are.
So if they can keep it up, we can, we can look back to this video and say, okay, we'll take that on the chin. But
We'll take the
for
L.
for now, yeah, for now, you can say, the Sabres. I mean, there's a reason they haven't made the playoffs in a very, very long time, and I think it is because they aren't like as quite as cohesive in their own zone as maybe you'd hope to be. And yeah, let's move on to what we were going to talk about in this segment of the special teams. But we had a whole segment on special teams after the Washington game, and then we come to here, and it's the same segment, but we switch it. And I think
Yep.
that's just pretty funny. When the penalty kill struggled, we gave up two goals, right, on the power play.
Yep.
And then the power play looked really good, and we had a good 5-on-3. Demidov had a really nice goal, and and Suzuki had one as well.
Yeah, it was really funny to see, the power play has kind of been the GOAT, or not. It's always like the GOAT horns. That's what I'm thinking. Not 'cause that and like being like
Scapegoat.
goated, right? Scapegoat, yeah. It's been like the focus of the negativity over this stretch, right? Where the Canadians have been playing very good hockey, but for the last month and a bit, the power play has been terrible. So there's like that's been the focus, and the penalty kill has actually been greatly improved. And then tonight it was just flipped that story on its head. It was kind of funny, but mostly I think the penalty kill, those first two, it just happened so fast that I'm not too concerned about it. If that's weird, like it was just kind of broken plays, and then the power play getting better actually like was positive for me.
Yeah.
It was weird because I feel like the PK got better as the game went on also, as they kept on taking penalties. I'm more concerned tonight about, I agree that some of the calls were a little bit, because they always are. But overall, I feel like the discipline wasn't there. I think they could have been a little bit tighter on discipline.
Yeah.
That's what I'd be more concerned about tonight.
Yeah, the Dano tripping call was rough. Like, just him taking that.
Yeah.
That was just his stick not in the right spot there, and you'd hope a guy like him doesn't take those penalties. I think he took one. Was it against Washington that he took one as well, or he had
I think you might be
another
frozen
one?
again.
Oh.
Oh no, not on my end, but it was
Yeah.
on the screen on YouTube. So
He had another like weird penalty recently as well. Trinka says they missed Jake Evans. Yeah.
Yep.
He's really nice on the PK. Like once we get him back, I'm like very confident in this forward group on the kill, especially with how Joe Veleno has played. We can talk about the power play after, but I know Andrew, you specifically wanted to talk about Joe Veleno, and I just wanted to say quickly that I just think he's, like I said this last stream as well, but he is using his speed very, very effectively on the PK.
Yes, he is. There was a shift on the PK today where he just hounded, I think it was Rasmus Dahlin, and he just hounded him and forced him out of the offensive zone. Like he didn't have body position, and he made himself have it just by being smarter, predicting what Dahlin was going to do, and getting on him and keeping his stick out and making sure that he had no space to make a move. It was excellent penalty killing, and I'm so impressed with Veleno right now because the beginning of the season was really rough. He's been better since he's been put to center, but because of his draft position, people expected offense, and he hasn't been able to convert on that really. And the beginning of the season, he kept on getting into good positions, but he would like make the right play, he'd make the right decision, but he couldn't execute on that decision. And it was really frustrating to watch because you want to root for the guy because he's making the right choices. He's in the right areas, but he couldn't get it done. And I was looking at him and I thought, you know what? Problem is just not an NHLer, right? NHLer brain, but maybe not NHLer skills. And he's proven that incorrect. And I'll gladly eat that L because not only has he blossomed at 5-on-5 and been much more effective as a center and made that fourth line into something that can just eat minutes and is very effective with like Sammy Blais and Brendan Gallagher right now. They grind teams up a little bit, and they have like these shifts that really can change momentum. But then making himself really valuable on the penalty kill. Like, this is a player who could have sulked, and maybe, there were stretches in the season where many of us, including myself, were calling on Marty St. Louis to scratch this guy and try somebody else, and saying like he'd run out of road to like make an impact. He just kept going, and now he is carved out a spot for himself. It's going to be hard to scratch him, I think, honestly.
Yeah. I think there's two circumstances as well that you can talk about with Foligno that makes this interesting. So I think first of all, development isn't always linear,
Mm-hmm.
and development can happen at any time. We've seen it especially with a player like Josh Anderson, who for the first couple of years with this team, it was hard to see a role for him, but now he's an indispensable player on the squad. And when did he develop? When he was 28 years old? 20, like 27, 28, 29? Joe Velino's 26. He was a first round pick. Obviously that first round pedigree hasn't quite worked out for him, but what that means is maybe now he's starting to realize how he can adapt his game to become an NHLer instead of maybe saying, "Oh, I need to be a top 6 player. I was a first round pick." No, I'm on the fringes of the NHL right now. Let me make sure I can be an NHLer. And that's something you're really seeing from him. And then also he's getting an opportunity because of the Habs injuries. He's getting he's fortunate to be in this circumstance. He picked the right team to go to as well in the offseason, but he's fortunate to be in this circumstance. And I think he's noticed that, Sammy Blaze here, Owen Beck's played some games, Florian Jack has played some games. We traded for 2 forwards over the last couple months. He knows that he's got to put the pedal to the metal if he wants to stay on this team. And, you got to give him credit because over the last month or so, since we're back from the December break, at least, he has looked pretty effective in his role.
He has. And one thing that you cannot take away from him at any point this season is he has never stopped working. Like, he's had moments where his play has not been great, but at no point would I look and say Joe Veleno has not been working hard. And I think that's something that you can always like look back on and be proud of yourself at the end of the day, right? Like, even if it ends up that he isn't one of the top 12 when the team is healthier, I think he can look back and say, like, I worked my ass off to stay there as long as I possibly could. And I don't think anybody would deny that.
Yeah, absolutely. And back the other way
On
on the
power play
power
time,
play. Yeah. Uh, it looked good today.
it did.
They were like actually moving. That's I kind of find when the Habs power play stagnates, they just stand still and pass.
They do.
And this time, there still isn't quite as much movement as I would hope for. Like with how good some of these guys are on their edges and like just with the puck and getting the puck in weird situations, like especially Hudson and Demidov, I would love to see just them just like move like crazy. We haven't ever seen that, but what we did see is a lot of switching with Caulfield on the bottom, like Caulfield switching from the bottom to the side on the left
Mm-hmm.
side, and that created some confusion. And then also just like a lot of movement up top with Hudson. And what that allowed Montreal to do is set up Demidov for a beautiful one timer. By the way, that guy's got a crazy shot. And then also because after that, they were starting to cheat a little over to Demidov's side on the next power play, and it allowed Hudson to get a very clean one-timer in the middle of the ice, which result in the Suzuki goal.
It's funny, we theorized that Dobson and Texier got put on that top unit because the power play wasn't shooting enough. And Hudson and Demidov are both guys who think pass first more often. And maybe the message was as simple as shoot. And they both got that message tonight. They got themselves into shooting positions first of all and took the damn shot.
Yeah.
Obviously, Demidov's was a beauty. And I really loved Suzuki's pass to find Lane Hudson from down low as well. It seemed everybody on the Sabres thought Suzuki was going to try to go cross crease. And usually he does, right? So it's like you've built that reputation, and it's that Suzuki deceptiveness to find Hudson way up top. And I really liked that pass. The moment, like the waiting for it, finding the lane as it opened up, it was perfect Nick Suzuki moment. Like,
Finding the
I love
lane?
that. Yeah. Yeah. Just like he waited for the perfect timing, right? Where you just wait till the guy drifts in, pinches a little bit too much, cheats a little bit too much. It's just the minutia of the hockey that I love.
Yeah, it's good to see, and I think the power play is going to be all right. Maybe Marty was overthinking it a little bit. Just once you get into a rut, you just think of random stuff to get out of it, and sometimes it's just get your bread and butter, let them figure it out, and just maybe try to coach them up slightly differently. And it looked good today. We'll see how they look like heading forward, but I do think they're going to be all right.
Yeah. And it's funny, at the highest level of sports, it sounds ridiculous to say that like the head coach or like one of the coaches on the coaching staff of a professional hockey team would be telling a superstar player, like, just shoot the puck. But that is literally like one of the most common things in all live coaching scenarios where you're in the sport at the time. You can ask like any boxer what their coach in the corner is going to say to them most often. It's going to be use your jab more. And of course you want to use your jab more. It's the punch that you use the most. But it's that simple stuff that when you're in it that you have to remind yourself, dig back into the basics. Like that stuff it's so simple, but it's kind of what our brains need to be reminded of in the moment. It's weird how humans are wired, but it makes for entertaining hockey, that's for sure. All right, let's shift over to the third segment here because I want to go through some details on the Montreal Canadiens this year and get the fan base fired up a little bit because I think we're being babies. I think we got to be better. All right, we're transitioning to the third period. This is Game Over Montreal. I'm Andrew Berkshire. I'm here with Jordan Hachey, and if you'd like to support us, please like this video. Please subscribe to this YouTube page, and you can subscribe to our other sister channels as well, and hit up thegameovernetwork.com where you can find cool merch bearing our logos and names and stuff. And you can also support us on our Patreon, all linked within the description of this video or in the podcast if you're listening on the podcast side. It really does help us out. And Bailey Stat says, ball pit. Yes, okay. I need to figure out a date for the ball pit stream, but I will do it. I'll talk to Astrid soon. We got her approval. We're going to set it up.
A ball pit.
Yeah, we're going to do a stream live from the ball pit, I think. It's going to be fun. But let's dig in here on these Montreal Canadiens. So there was a lot of talk on the broadcast and on socials tonight that the Buffalo Sabres are on the second half of a back-to-back. Valid. It sucks to lose to a team who's on the second half of a back-to-back. The Montreal Canadiens are also playing their 6th game in 9 days. Yeah. They just finished off a stretch where they played 5 games in 7 days. That is atrocious scheduling and incredibly difficult to deal with. Now you could say, like, listen, they're professional athletes. You don't have to feel sorry for them. And they got a day of rest yesterday, sure. However, that's just not how the human body works.
Yeah.
You cannot do this much physical activity in such a short amount of time and just be fresh. They're probably still going to be tired on Saturday as well against the Senators. And I'm not saying that as an excuse. It's just a reality that they're dealing with. But let's put it into context. Over the last 2 weeks now, they are what? 4-2-1. And that's with a 5-game in 7 days stretch. That's against 1, 2, 3 playoff teams from last year. So 3 out of 6 were playoff teams last year. That's not too tough, but it's not too easy either. One of them being the Dallas Stars, another the Florida Panthers. They rocked the Calgary Flames, the Vancouver Canucks. The only game that I would honestly be disappointed about in that whole stretch, based on like the Canadiens' performance overall, is the Detroit game.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like they've been good lately. This is still
very good.
Still a super, super young team. I don't know if we're quite the youngest anymore with Danault and Texier on, but still an extremely young team who wants to make back the playoffs, and they're in a playoff spot. They've been in a playoff spot all year. We've got 59 points. Buffalo's now, like, technically, if Buffalo wins their next 2 games that they have in hand on us, they do pass us by 1 point, but we're still 3 points clear of anyone that's, like, sniffing us. At 3 points fully clear of Boston, right? And that's really good. This team, again, like, even heading into the year, every model you would look at, Montreal, 30% chance.
Yep.
Montreal, 25%. Montreal, 32%. Montreal, 38% playoff chance. Now you look at all the models, 70%. And even more than that, this team is finding ways to win, and they're not going to have a great game every night. This is a insane schedule. And yeah, every team has an insane schedule. You can definitely get that. But it does suck that MUFC is pointing out that, like, yeah, it sucks that we're in the Atlantic a little bit more than if we were in the Metro would be pretty nice. But
That's like a
yeah,
really good point, honestly. Like the Atlantic thing, because the worst team in the Atlantic is probably Boston. They're not bad by any stretch. I mean, Buffalo's probably the worst on like overall talent level, but in terms of like right now, probably the Bruins are the worst. Like that's crazy that the Bruins would be the worst team in a division. I know they're not on like their peak anymore, but they're not an actively bad team. They're just mid.
yeah, that, like, I mean, like, Boston still has pocket. They still have a top player in the league in Pasternak, right? And they still have Geeky, who's lighting up the world, and a really
Charlie
good,
McAvoy.
yeah, really good number one goalie, like, who's playing really well this year. So I mean, yeah, none of these teams in the Atlantic are slouches whatsoever, right? And you also have to remember that throughout the year. But you know, I was pretty disappointed when that final whistle blew for sure today. But you take a few minutes to think about it, and you realize, like, the kids are all right.
They are. They are. And just based on like what has happened this year, like the standings aren't as predictive as the process, right? We all know this, and I know that there's some pushback this year because a couple of the XG models are a little bit off. I think the evolving hockey one is a little bit off this year on like middle danger chances for some reason, but it's being worked on, and there's been some pushback on analytics. But we all know from years and years and years of experience now that like first half results are less predictive than first half expected goals or even shot attempt differential for the results in the second half and into the playoffs. So if you look at the underlying numbers, the Montreal Canadiens are not one of the top teams in the league. They are a middle of the pack team in terms of controlling play overall this season. However, that changes as you go on throughout the season. Going back to basically middle of December, the Canadiens have been significantly better. Like the beginning of the season, they were below par for most of it until
Yeah.
December. And now they're really building. Now, at the same time, they've had a lot of injuries. So they're going to get bodies back and increase their depth. On top of that, no matter how you slice it and what you think of it, they have been royally on the shit end of the stick in terms of penalties. Now, if you want to go down the conspiracy road, I'm not going to follow down with you. I think that there are other factors that drive these kinds of decisions, and small sample sizes can be misleading. But no matter how you cut through it, the Canadiens have had a really rough ride for the penalties this year. They're the only team that I've found that their opponents get more power plays than they do while they're trailing. They're like the opposite of what you would expect for game management. They're the only team that I've tracked so far this season that's true.
Great.
They're also one of only two teams that have a worse penalty differential while they're trailing than they do when the game is tied. The other one is Ottawa, but Ottawa has a really, really good penalty differential in every single situation. So it's not that they've been screwed. It's just that in some situations they don't get as good of a push. So there are a lot of things working against the Canadiens, and they're fighting through all of that to give you the season that we've seen so far. I remember starting this show with SDPN and watching them lose over and over and over, and it being the most demoralizing, horrible losses. It wasn't even that long ago, folks. So yes, I get it. There are expectations now, and you want to see them elevate but they already are. Like we've talked about it earlier, Jordan and I, about like what Lane Hudson is already, what Uri Slavkovsky is already, what Ivan Demidov is already. They're so far ahead of track. Jacob Fowler shouldn't even be in the NHL right now. This is not the plan, right? So the fact that they are performing at such a high level now, it doesn't even make sense. So I am begging and pleading, Habs fans, because everything in the world is so bad right now. The Canadiens are still giving you something very, very good and fun. Enjoy it. For yourself, for your sanity. Enjoy this good thing, this fun thing, and don't get too wrapped up in a loss here or there.
I mean, makes sense to me. Makes sense to me. And I think one thing that I want to add on is just the larger the sample size that you see, the more your actual play is going to dictate things more than luck.
Yep.
Right. And that's why in football, sometimes years just get so crazy because you play one game. That's why March Madness is like the most insane tournament you'll ever watch because you play one game. Hockey's 82 games year after year after year. When you're trying to build a contention window, not just 1 year, but a contention window, what you want is 7, 7 to 8 years of good play on the ice. And some years you're going to have less luck with injuries. You're going to have less luck with penalties. You're going to have less luck just puck bounces. But that 1 year where you get that extra luck, suddenly you're like you win the President's Trophy, right? So that's what Montreal's trying to build. It's the game by game basis of a win, a loss. Does it matter that much this year? Maybe not. But the on ice play is what matters, and I think if there's anything you can take away from like any conversations we've had over the past few weeks is that the on ice play has been there for Montreal, and that's really encouraging.
Yeah, 100%. All right, let's switch over right away to the presser or the OT segment where folks can ask whatever
Overtime.
questions they have in their minds. I already see there was something there from Montreal MUFC that I wanted to get to, so I'm going to switch over now. Welcome back to Game Over Montreal. I'm Andrew Berkshire. I'm here with Jordan Hachey, and we're answering questions from our chat in the live chat here. Montreal MUFC says the way that the playoff bracket is built is also ridiculous because at least 3 teams of each division have to be in the playoffs, even when the division really sucks. Yeah, honestly, it's such an NHL thing. And this is, I don't know what the NHL thinks it's building. The obsession with parity, the obsession with like manufactured rivalry. My note constantly over the last couple of years has been that the people who run the league don't actually like the sport that much. They don't trust the sport to be compelling on its own. So they feel like they have to have their finger on the scale to force a certain thing to be a certain way so that people will be interested. But like the game is on balance, on talent level, on kind of play that like coaches are pushing from the bench, has never been in a better place. But the NHL seems to be in their own way in a lot of ways, and not just on the ice. I mean, it's even there was an interview today in The Athletic from Sean Gentili about Gary Bettman talking about heated rivalry, like, oh yeah, good show. He guaranteed has not watched it. And then they were asked about pride jerseys, and they're still banning pride jerseys. So like, what are we doing here? They're not good at it. They're not good at growing the game.
Yeah, it sucks that you have a division, 2 divisions of 8 teams, and you could argue all 8 teams in the Atlantic are like could be the second best team in the Metro this year. And that's not even an exaggeration. Like that's just at that point it is malpractice. Like that is anti-parity. Having this divisional format. I know a lot of people always say they want to go back to 1 versus 8. I would be okay with that. Just make it an 8. It would maybe be slightly complicated, but like when you're seeing years like this, it really annoys you. It really does.
It could legitimately occur this year if Carolina doesn't pick it up that a wild card Atlantic team could have to face the top Metro team and have more points and not have home ice advantage.
That's hilarious.
There's a 4-point gap right now.
Like if you're in the Atlantic, you want to get the first wild card.
Oh yeah. Yeah, you 100% want to take that Metro team. There's no way you want to face the top Atlantic team instead of the top Metro team.
No, but you over the 3 seed even, man. Like
yeah.
Or even arguably the 2 seed. I guess depends who's there, but yeah.
Yeah, the worst place to be is probably 2 or 3 in the Atlantic. That's hilarious. That's happened before in the Pacific, I think, as well. But yeah, this intention on like the forced rivalry in division, I don't think it's going to help. I think that if you think back on some of the best rivalries in recent years, like one of them is Vancouver-Chicago. That was a crazy rivalry. And it's just those two teams were good at the same time. That's what makes rivalries more than anything. Proximity helps because you're just more likely to hate them from regular season. And I think it's good to have some divisional play in the playoffs, but you've only got 2 divisions. You're pretty likely in 4 groups to get a couple of them within division. So like we don't need this fake stuff. We don't need constant game management to make the games look closer. We don't need to like introduce rules to like make it so that teams can't build dynasties. We can loosen some salary cap regulations so that if you actually have a good team, you can keep that team together a little bit instead of being punished. Although the cap's going up, it's probably not going to be a problem for a bit. But like all these little pinch points that the NHL creates to flatten everything, like flattening your product takes the excitement out. Like it seems like there was way more interest in the NBA when the Warriors were winning every year than there is right now, where everybody's kind of complaining about it. So I don't know, man.
Yeah, it's like the hockey is so much more entertaining to watch. Or like it's just such an entertaining game. And yet like a lot of people I know, they say like, "Oh, well, I'd just rather watch football. I'd rather watch basketball," even though they love hockey. And
Yeah.
it's sad because this product, this league could truly be amazing. Like imagine the NHL with like an amazing marketing department, with an amazing head. Like how far could it go?
I don't know. Like I honestly think that there's potential, especially nowadays when you see so many things marketed as like ASMR. Why don't we have a hockey broadcast with no color commentary? And it's just crank up the arena sounds. I want to hear the sounds of skates cutting through ice because it's a great sound that no other sport, or at least team sport, competitive sport like this, obviously skating sports, but like this kind of sport has that. Basketball with the squeaky shoes, awful. Great sport, but like sound-wise, really not fun to listen to. Hockey has something special there. Why would you not bring that out and put it on the broadcast and like highlight it? Like maybe you're afraid of players saying stuff, but that's just part of it, right? And if players start getting in trouble for saying stuff, then maybe incentivizes them to clean it up a little bit there. Maybe there's some things you just shouldn't say if you're going to get in trouble for it. So there's so many things the NHL could do to make the product better and support the actual great play that's on the ice. They just don't seem to be interested in doing most of them.
Oh well, at least the Habs are good.
It's true. And the fact is they are actually going to face pressure now because there is another league, and it's, yes, small right now, but there is another major sports or major hockey league, that is changing some stuff here and there in the PWHL that are
Oh, yeah.
taking risks in changing rules. And that league is gaining popularity and will continue to do so. So I hope that they actually do provide some pressure on the NHL to make things a little bit better, because it happened before with the WHA where there was pressure applied from a rebel league. So, I mean, we can't always rely on the women to fix everything for us, but it seems like we kind of do anyway. That's just the
Yeah.
male way of doing things.
I love the jailbreak rule there. That's so fun. It's so fun.
It's so fun, right?
Like that would be
Yeah.
really cool. But another thing too is like with overtime, this just came to my mind. Like people have known for years now that overtime sucks now. Like why
Yeah.
haven't they at least tried to add like an over and back? That is the simplest thing you could try to make this more fun, because overtime could be so awesome with the 3-on-3. Like the first year that 3-on-3 existed, it was like the most amazing thing you've ever seen. So just like, maybe experiment, try stuff. It doesn't hurt.
Yeah, and I think the over and back rule is the easiest thing to do, and I think it's so simple and executable that there's no reason to not try, right? There's no risk. All right, we're gonna cut it there because it's late, and we'll be back on Saturday night against the Ottawa Senators. Hopefully, the Canadiens give us a bit of a better effort. Thank you for watching. I am Andrew Berkshire. He is Jordan
Hachey.
There you go. Follow us, and we'll be back on Saturday. See you later,
Thanks,
guys.
everyone.